Yeah, hi. Welcome for Object Repository Day 2 session. So, we have seen last time what is Object Repository, how to add or edit and delete objects from Object Repository, how we can write test script, okay, using Object Repository. Fine. So this we have seen in last part. Fine. So now we are continuing with this, and now we are going to learn further now this topics. Alright, so now let's take one application and let's try to write script. Fine. So last time we have tried to edit child objects, correct? So now we will try to add parent object. Fine. So we'll take same application which we have taken last time. Fine. Now let's try to debug this and let's see whether it's correct or not. Alright, so now we have opened here LinkedIn website. Fine. Okay, and now we want to write test script. Okay, so now we'll try to add objects in object repository. So go to menu, go to resources, open object repository. Fine. So now we have opened object repository. Okay, we have opened object repository, and now we'll add here parent object. Fine. So here parent object for web application is browser. Fine. So now we are trying to add parent object. Fine. So now go to menu, go to object and select add object to local. Fine. And click on here browser title. Fine. As soon as we click on browser title, okay, it will display object selection add to repository. Fine. So this is the correct, this is the parent object, and now click OK. Fine. So now when we click OK button, it will display define object filter, and here we have 4 options. Okay, so we can select the filter, okay, to learn that object or to add object. Fine. So let's learn each one by one. Correct. So now we are selecting here first selected object only. Fine. So currently we have selected parent object browser, right? So now we select selected object only option or filter and click OK button. Let's see what happens. Click OK. So when we click OK, so now it will add parent object browser, correct? Parent object browser, because we have selected object only option. So only that object is get added in object repository. Alright, now let's try to learn remaining option one by one, right? So I'm just deleting this object from object repository. Select, right click and delete. Fine. So now let's try to add again parent object. Click OK. Fine. And now select default object type. Fine. Default object type. So now when we click OK, so now here Qt will decide which object has to be default on this browser. It will get added in object repository. Fine. So if we make large this object repository window, so we can see here default object is get added, okay, from this browser. Fine. So first we can see all these are what basically images. Fine. After that we can see all these are links. Okay, link. Fine. So it get added. Now here we can see all these are buttons, right? These are the web button, classes web button. Fine. And now last we can see here web edit box. Okay, all we can see here web edit box. Fine. So these are the default object on this parent object browser is get added because you have selected default object. So now here Qt will decide and add that default object from that parent object browser. Fine. So this way we can add default object from application to object repository. Correct. Now let's see remaining two options. So now we are deleting again parent object. So when we delete parent object, it will delete everything. But if we delete child object, for example this link, select delete, so it will just delete that link. But now we try to delete parent object browser, so it will delete everything. Correct. Fine. Now let's see remaining option. So now go to object, add object to local, click on this browser, click OK. Fine. Now we are selecting fourth option, then we'll move to third option. So fourth option is what? Selected object types. Fine. And now here we can see one button select. Fine. So click on button select, and now we can decide which object we want to add. Right. So this is selection in automation test hand. Fine. So currently our requirement wherein we want to add first browser, which is important object and mandatory object. Now we want to add page, so select page, and also we want to add edit box, right? So select web edit. Fine. But we don't want link, right? In this application links are there, okay, but we don't want to add, so we have unchecked that object from a selection, right? And we are not selecting other selections, we just want to add edit box, hence we have selected web edit. Fine. So now click OK, right? If you want, we can select all object with this button, select all, so all objects get selected, right? If you click clear all, so everything which is selected get cleared from selection. Fine. So now we have decided to select only web edit box, select that, and now click OK. Fine. Click OK. Fine. Again click OK on this define object filter window. Correct. So now let's see that edit box object is get added or not. So now we can see only selected object, which is web edit. Correct. Web edit is only get added in object repository because remaining thing we have not selected. Fine. So this way automation tester can decide what object they want to add in object repository. So here automation tester can select what object they want to add in object repository with that option, selected object types. Fine. And now let's see last option. Fine. How to add parent object, add object to local, select on, click on browser, click OK, and now we are selecting all objects type. Fine. So name describe itself. If we select all object types and click OK, so now Qtp will add each and every object from application to object repository. Even smallest object is get added, okay, from application to object repository this way. Fine. So which save our lot of time, right? This option will save a lot of time. Correct. So we not required to add each child objects one by one. So now first we can see these are the images objects, then we can see links, okay, in object repository, then we can see here buttons, okay, web buttons, and now images. Fine. So each and every object, even smallest link from that applications get added in object repository. Fine. So now let's try to write script. Okay, now let's try to write script. Also what we are doing for our convenient purpose, we are renaming this browser object name to B. Fine. This page name is world largest professional. We have renamed this to P home, right? Page home. Fine. And now we can write test script. So our next step is enter first name, last name, email address, password, click join now. Fine. So these are the steps, right? So in order we have to write script. Fine. So now we have to write script for enter first name. Fine. So last session we have seen first we need a parent object, correct? Parent object class. So select B, and corresponding you can see class name is what? Browser. Fine. So write here browser and control space. Fine. So now Qtpl auto complete, okay, that object class name. Now write open bracket and close bracket. Fine. So this object is get stored in object repository. Qtp is learn that object when we have added, and it gets stored in object repository. So now we can easily write the script. Fine. Now write here a dot page. Fine. So green color means this is what we call method, right, or operation, and this is child object, right? This color is child object. Select page, okay, and open bracket, right? Write close bracket. Fine. Now we are writing step for enter valid first name, right? So select here web edit. Fine. And now write open bracket. So as soon as we write open bracket, so now we can see all that added box object which is get added in object repository displaying in this selection. Fine. So now we want to add first name, right? But here we can see displaying here first name, here also it's displaying first name. Fine. Also we check in application, it displaying here first name, and also here displaying first name. Fine. So this is little confusion that which object we should use to write script, correct? Okay, or how we can verify which object, okay, we want to use in test script, correct? So to eliminate this confusion, so what we can do, select object first name from object repository. Now go to view and select highlight in application. Select first object which want to highlight or verify from object repository to application. Select that first from object repository. Go to view and select highlight in application. Fine. Or we can take this object repository window, left side corner, select that object first name, go to view, highlight in application. Fine. So we can see currently Qtp is highlighting that object on that particular location as a first name, right? Let's try one more time. Select first name, go to view, highlight in application. Fine. So here Qtp is highlighting that object from object repository to application, correct? Means this object first name we have to use in this step, right? Also let's learn then this is the object first is present where in application, correct? So same process, if you want to highlight or verify that object from object repository, select first object, go to menu of object repository, view, highlight in application. See, currently it's highlighting this first name object on application. Fine. Let's try one more time. Select object, go to view, highlight in application, correct? So in this step, okay, we can highlight or verify any object from object repository to application. So what is highlight? Correct. So this thing we have seen last time, we have learned last time. So now we are continuing with this furthermore. Highlight in application. So highlight an application means here Qtp highlight or verify selected object from object repository to application under test, or we call that as a AUT also, correct? Same way, now let's understand how we can locate any object from application to object repository. Fine. So either we can use highlight in application, or we can use locate object from application to object repository. So what this step does, right, what this thing does, so locate objects means here qtp locate means in simple mean it search instructed object from application to object repository. Fine. So now let's take this example, locate object. So how we can locate any object from application to object repository, right? So let's complete this step. First name, right, dot set, correct, and now we can write here test first name. Fine. So this step we can enter valid first name, right? Now let's write next step wherein you have to write valid last name. So same process, first write parent object, child object page dot, it's a web edit, right, and write open bracket. Fine. So here also similar, we can say displaying last and last name. Fine. Okay, so what we can do, we can use again highlight in application, or we can use locate in a repository. Fine. So select first last name. Okay, always make sure open application parallel if you want to use highlight or locate in object repository. Select last name, go to view and highlight in application. So you can see it's highlighting last name, it's highlighting last name from object repository to application. Fine. Same way we can use, go to view, select any object first, let's say join now, go to view and select locate in repository. Fine. So as soon as we click locate in repository, our QTP will get invisible, right? We can't see here QTP, right? We can only see application. Even our cursor become what? Hand button, right? So instruct QTP that I want to locate last name web edit box from application to object repository. So click on last name. Fine. As soon as we click last name, it will display that hierarchy of that object. Fine. If it's a correct, so now then click OK button. Fine. Currently we have selected join now object in object repository, and now when we click OK button, now we can see selection at last name object, correct, last name object. So this way QTP can locate any object from application to object repository, right? Likewise same, we want to locate first name object from application to object repository, right? Let's try again locate in repository for first name object. So go to object repository menu, go to view, select locate in repository, right, and instruct QTP object first name edit box, click on it. Fine. And in our object repository last name object is selected. Fine. So now if this hierarchy is correct, selected object is correct, then click OK. Fine. As soon as we click OK, now we can see here QTP has located that object as a first name. Fine. So this way we can easily identify any object from object repository to application by using highlight in application. Same way we can locate or search any object from application to object repository using locate in repository. Correct? So very useful operation. Fine. So now we can easily write this script. Okay. So just write open bracket, and now we can use last name, right, dot method set space test last name. Fine. Okay. Next is enter email ID. So this step we have entered valid last name, let's complete script page, right, web edit. Okay, and now here there is only email id object, there is no other object is there, so select email. Fine, close. Dot method set space let's say email id testing@gmail.com. Fine, so in this step we can enter valid email id. Fine, now let's go to next step, right, browser dot page dot web edit. Fine, and here we have to enter password, correct, password. Fine, so now let's try to do same thing, right, so select view, locate in repository, and click on this password object, correct, password object. Fine, so it displaying here web edit, which name of that developer is given, right, and now click OK. Fine, as soon as we click OK, see now selection on web edit. Fine, let's try one more time. Select any object from object repository, then go to view, locate in repository, right, so now we want to locate this password object from application to object repository, so instruct qtp and click on that object password edit box. Fine, so that developer is given that object name is web edit, right, and click on OK button. Fine, as soon as we click OK, see displaying here web edit, correct, so now we have to use web edit object, right, bracket close. So this way we can write script and identify or search object easily. Fine, and here we have to enter password, so use password encoder, let's say test, click generate, copy, close. Fine, now next step wherein we have to click on join now button, correct, join now button. Fine, so in this step we have entered invalid password, correct. Next step, click on join now button. Fine, so let's write again script for that, browser dot page dot web edit, open bracket, this is the button, so write web button, open bracket. Fine, so here we can see displaying join now, select that object and click OK. Fine, and now last close the browser, so write browser b dot close all tabs, right, and our script is ready. Okay, our script is ready. Fine, so we will learn how we can highlight any object and how we can locate any object from object repository. Fine, so now let's understand what is object spy. Okay, what is object spy? Fine, so now what is object spy, right? So through using object spy, qtp spy, or you can say follow or identify any objects properties and values which set by developer. Okay. So through object spy we can spy any objects property and value which set by developer, or we can learn for that object which is other property and values. Fine, so let's use object spy. Fine, so now what we want to do, we want to spy this join now button property and value, right? So in our object repository also we can see for join now button displaying some property and value, right, property and value. Fine, but through object spy we can find more property and values. Fine. So how to use object spy? So we can see here it displaying one small icon, a person with head, right? So that is object spy. Fine, we can use object spy from menu, go to tools and use object spy. Fine. Also we can use object spy from object repository, go to resource, go to object repository, right? And here we can see also object spy. Fine, same way go to tools and here also we can see there is object spy option. Fine. So currently we are using this object spy shortcut. Fine. So as soon as we click object spy, fine, it displaying one window, right? And we can read here text, it displaying use the pointing hand button to select the object whose property or method you want to view. Fine. So currently we want to spy join now button property. Fine. So click on this hand button. As soon as we click on this hand button, our QTP will get disappeared, correct? And our cursor become hand button, and just instruct QTP that I want to spy join now button object property in value and click on it. Fine. So as soon as we click on it, now we can see here first that object hierarchy, and now here displaying property and here values. Fine. So now we can see for web button join now displaying class name web button and some other property values, right? Such as disable 0 means it's not disabled, correct? It's a enable. Fine. Name of this button is what? Join now. HTML tag is input. Type of this object is submit. Value of that button is join now, right? And we can see X and Y coordinate, right? It displaying also other properties such as visible, value is true. Fine. So through object spy we can spy any object property in value, right? Let's try some other object also. So click on object spy, right? And keep a cursor, keep on your hand button on first name object, for example. Fine. So displaying for first name object property and values, correct? Property and values, just class name web edit. Okay, and it displaying some other property value. Also it displaying max length is one property, value is 20, means in this edit box first name we can add maximum 20 character, which is valid. Above 20 character it's invalid. Fine. Let's try to do object spy on these links, right? So go to QTP, click on this hand button and move your hand cursor on any links. So for example, if you click on this link careers, fine, so it displaying here for career object here property and value. So class name is a property, value is a link, right? And some other property value it displaying. Fine. So through object spy we can spy any object property and value. It's very useful. This object spy is very useful. Correct? So this is our object spy. Fine. Object spy. Alright. So now we are going to learn next very important topic after this, which we call object repository types. Object repository types. Fine. So depending upon the way of objects are stored and used by QTP test script, object repository is divided into two types. Fine. There are two types of object repositories there: local object repository and shared object repository. Fine. Now let's understand first what is local object repository. Correct? So while recording or when we add objects in object repository, all objects are by default local objects. In this type of object repository, object scope is limited for only current test script and it can't use in any other test scripts, right? And local object repository file extension is .mtr. Okay, .mtr. Fine. So now if you go to object repository and if you see all objects are currently local, right? It displaying here local. For example, select link, it displaying local, right? Image, it displaying local. So by default, all objects when we record or add, it all are local objects. Means we can use for current test script only. We can't use these objects in other test scripts. Fine, because all these are local objects. It's same way, like if I put more simple way, right? If you have a local SIM card, we can't call any ISD number, fine, because it's a local SIM card, fine. So this same way here, all objects are by default local, so we can't use in any other test script, correct? So scope of this object is limited for this script only. We can't use in any other test script, fine. And that's when we call it a local shared object repository, fine. Same way, there is another type of object repository which we call shared, right? Shared. So name describe itself what mean by shared. So this objects which is shared could use in any other test script, right? Any other test script. Share object repository store all objects in a form. File extension is .tsr, right? .tsr. .tsr means test shared repository, right? So if objects are shared, then we can use in any other test scripts, okay, any other test scripts, fine, if objects are shared, fine. But we are happy with using local object repository, then why we should use share object repository, correct? Then why we use share object repository, or how it benefit, okay, if we use share object repository, fine. So let's take one simple scenario. So for example, currently we are testing application calculator. Okay, application calculator. Okay, so in calculator application there is a 4 scenarios are there, correct? Fine. So in that there is a 4 scenario or 4 test cases are there, fine. So our test cases, first if we say addition, okay, multiplication, okay, subtraction, okay, division, okay, and square root, correct? Okay, so for calculator we have a 5 test cases, okay, addition, division, multiplication, subtraction, and square root, fine. So these are the 4 test cases, fine. So of these 4 test cases we have to write steps, correct? So now we are writing here test steps, okay, we are writing test steps. So first step for addition is what? Open calculator. Second step is what? Click button 5. Third step is what? Let's say click button addition means plus. Fourth step, click button 4. Fifth step, click button equal to, and sixth step, close calculator, fine. So these are the steps for addition, correct? These are the steps for addition, fine. So now what we can do, the same steps we can copy and we can use for multiplication, okay, we can use for multiplication, subtraction, division, and square root test case, fine. So here we can use same steps, right? For multiplication we require, right, multiplication, here we require subtraction, okay, division, and here we require square root. Fine. So one option is what we can use here, local share object repository. Okay, so we can record first addition, okay, we can record multiplication, subtraction, division, square root, all separately, okay, all separately. And if you check here size of all test script, let's consider every test script file size is 1 MB, okay, all test script file size is 1 MB. So total file size of 5 test script will be 5 MB. Correct, because here we have used local share object repository, and we have to use each time record or maybe add objects, and all objects we have to add again. But if you properly observe here, there is only one step, means one object is unique in this 6 step. Correct, so here only one object is unique. Fine, but remaining steps are same, means remaining objects are same. Fine, so why we should add each time as a local? What we can do, steps or which objects is common, we can make them as a shared, means button 5 4 equal to, so this steps are common, means these objects are common. Fine, for each test script, so that steps means that corresponding object we can make them as a shared, and we can use in all test script. Fine, so we can rapidly create test script if we use share object repository. Other advantage, maintenance is less, also it save our time, and total file size of each test script will be less, because now we are using share object repository. Correct, we are using here share object repository. Fine, so now let's see how we can use here share object repository. Fine, in this scenario, okay, and how it benefit. Fine, so now let's take example of share object repository. Correct, fine, so first decide which objects are common and make them shared. Fine, so here 5 4 equal to objects are common for all test script, let's make them shared. Fine, but how we can make them shared objects? Fine, so first open object repository, and we have to add first as a local. Correct, we have to add first that object as a local, right? So add first 5, correct, and move your mouse rapidly, because this is a window application. Okay, if we do delay, it get minimized. It's a lightweight application basically. Fine, so displaying here button, so let's rename this 5. Fine, likewise let's try to add another common object or step 4, right, 4. Now let's try to add equal to, which is also common for each step. Fine, so we have added all object which is common for all test scripts. Fine, so currently all objects are local, right, and we have to make shared. So now properly observe how we can make this object shared. So go to object repository menu, go to file, and select export local objects, right? So this object we can export, and we can make them as a share objects. Fine, so go to file of object repository, select export local objects. Fine, so as soon as we select, right, it displaying here file type .tsr, right, it's for share object repository. TSR stand for test as shared R repository. Correct, so now we will store here that share object repository. Correct, so now we'll store in our project folder where we are storing all share object repository. Correct, here we'll make one folder as a shared object repository. So in that we'll store all share object repository, so in future we can get all objects easily. Fine, So now give a file name, let's say calculator underscore shared. Okay, and now click save. Fine. So as soon as we click save, it got stored in our project folder, right? Let's see now. Correct. So here we have stored that, right, and displaying here calculator underscore shared dot tsr. Right, means this is share object repository. Fine. Now we can use this share object repository in other test script. Fine. So now our first test script is addition. Correct. Our first test script is addition. Alright. So now go to file, save as, and let's store this first in our project folder. Go to test script folder, and here we are giving name our test script calculator addition. Click save. Fine. So our first step is to open calculator. So use command system util dot run double quote calc dot exe. So this is the command to open any application. Fine. Now we are going to do next, wherein we are going to import that share object repository in current test script. Now we are not going to record or add objects again. Fine. So now according to our planning, okay, this object which we have made share, okay, now we are going to use in current test script. So go to resource, go to object repository, and now we are going to import, or we are going to associate that share object repository in current test script. Fine. So how we can associate share object repository, right? So go to object repository menu, go to tools, and go to associate repository. So below objects pie you can see associate repository, and that share object repository we can associate with our current test script. So select associate repository. Fine. So displaying here associate repository. Fine. And now we can see here one plus button to add repository, and this for remove repository. Fine. So click add repository and give a file path of that share object repository. Correct. Select that share object repository, and we can add only shared, not local. Right. Click OK. Fine. Currently displaying here available, make it associate. Right. Okay. And currently there is no objects in object repository. Right. And now click OK. Fine. And this way we can add multiple share object repository at a time. Fine. So now we have added share object repository, right? Now we have added share object repository. Fine. Okay. So now these objects are common, already we have added as a share object repository, and now add object which is unique as a local. So button plus is unique object, so we have to add as a local objects. Correct. So now what we can do, open calculator, go to objects and click add object to local, and click on plus button. Click OK. Fine. And now let's rename this. Fine. So our script is ready. Our script is ready, and now we can write script, or we can use drag and drop, right? So use any method which is convenient for you. So now this time we are using drag and drop method to write script, or you can write parent child method. Okay. And now last window calculator dot close. Fine. Our script is ready. Fine. So now click save, and now let's see how it works. Fine. It's working perfect. Fine. So here we have used share object repository plus local object repository. Fine. Now in this we want to see which objects are local, which objects are shared. We want to use filter, right? So use here filter and select local objects. So it displaying here our local objects. Correct. Now if you select shared, so it will display shared, right? If you select all objects, it will display all objects. Fine. But very important thing here, when we use share object repository, it will not allow to edit, it will not allow to delete or rename object from object repository, because we are using from other source. So it will not allow to edit or delete from object repository that objects. Fine, so that we have to remember, right? Also, share object repository color is display little blur and local objects color is little dark. Correct, means this is local objects and this is shared objects. Fine, so very rapidly we can create test script. Fine, so now save this script and now let's try to create multiplication test script also, right? But when we see file size, it will be less because we are using share object repository. Close, save, open, new test script. Fine, write syntax system util dot run space calculator dot exe. Fine, so now same process, go to resource, go to object repository, right? Object repository, go to menu, go to tools, go to associate repository, and now we are trying to add share object repository, and currently we are creating script for multiplication. Fine, multiplication. So click add repository and add same share object repository, make it associate, right? Currently this is empty object repository, and click OK. Fine, so that common objects is get added in object repository. Now we can add multiplication button, right? So same process to add that as a local object, add object to local and add multiplication. Correct, and we can give any name, but just make sure name should be logical, right? Let's say multiplication. Fine, and now we can write script. So same, we can write script or we can use drag and drop. Window, calculator, win button. Correct, it displaying here class win button. Fine, open bracket. So we are using 5 into 4 equal to step, right? And click. Fine, we can use drag and drop also. Four equal to, and now last close calculator. Fine, now so our script is ready. Let's try to debug and check whether it's working correct and syntax is also correct. So go to menu, go to debug, step into. Fine, so calculator is open, debug, debug, debug. Fine, 5 into 4 20 and cursor on equal to button, again click debug and it will close calculator. Fine, so this way we can create local and share object repository. Fine, okay, and now we can go for subtraction, division and square root. Okay, so that I am giving for assignment for practice this remaining test script. Fine, so now we do addition of each object repository test script. Okay, so file size will be less and very rapidly we have created script in less time, right? Plus maintenance is also less. Correct, also this objects which you have used here, which is local plus shared, we can also make them shared, right? So same process, file and export local objects, right? But we are doing here what? We are renaming this calculator to, let's say, calc. Okay, and we have renamed this, right? So now it's displaying here two parent object, calc and calculator, but calc is local object repository parent object and this is the share object repository parent object, right? Now go to file, export local objects, and let's say calculator shared new. Fine, and now click save. So as soon as we click save, so even this objects, okay, is get shared right? And now it's a share object repository. File extension is .tsr. Fine. So this way we can use local and share object repository. So some test cases, same object we use again and again, right? So one option is use local every test script, but more logical and better option is use that object as a shared. So first what we have to do, we have to add that objects in object repository and make them shared in advance, right? And use in all other test script, right? So it save a lot of time, and file size will be also less, correct? File size also will less, correct? So we have seen what is object repository types, local and shared, and why we should prefer share object repository, and what is benefit of share object repository, correct? Okay, so this is object repository types. Okay, object repository types, right? And how to use it. Fine. Now we are going to see what is object repository manager. What is object repository manager? So object repository manager will enable automation tester to manage object repository, right? Object repository manager is used to manage the share object repository, and using this share object repository can also create it, means we can add object repository new objects, we can edit them, we can delete them, okay, using object repository manager. Fine. So currently we have learned that this object which is currently shared, we can't edit or delete, correct? We can edit or delete from object repository, but we can edit or delete from object repository manager, right? Because in future sometime if some object name is get changed, right, that object is get removed from application, right? Okay, or developer has changed some object on application, so we have to change in object repository also, correct? But these objects are currently shared, so how we can change, from where we can change? So solution is what? Object repository manager, correct? So now we are learning how to use object repository manager. Fine. So let's save this script, which is our calculator multiplication. Okay, and now open new test script. Fine. And now go to QTP menu, go to resource and go to object repository manager, which is below object repository. Fine. So now we have opened object repository manager, so it will enable automation tester to manage object repository. Fine. Also many automation testers, they use object repository manager because it have advanced feature or extra features. Fine. So now let's learn how we can edit or maybe delete share object repository any objects. Fine. So now go to object repository menu, go to file, okay, and open share object repository, correct? So now we have opened share object repository. Fine. So now we can see here that share object repository. Fine. Same way we can open here another share object repository. Correct? Another share object repository. Fine. Okay. So now here we are adding some objects, but currently this is shared. How we can add it? Fine. How we can make this share object repository editable form? Correct? So now go to menu of object repository manager, go to file and select enable editing. Fine. Select enable editing. So it will enable automation tester to edit share object repository. Fine. Select enable editing. So as soon as we select enable editing, now this is a form wherein we can edit, delete or add any new objects. Fine. So now let's try to add first one object in object repository manager. So you can see in object repository manager also have a similar kind of feature which is there in object repository, correct? Such as add objects, highlight an application, locate in repository, okay, objects by, and some extra feature which I have mentioned, such as comparison tool and merge tool, which we are learning. Fine. So now we want to add new objects in object repository. We can add from here shortcut also if you want. Okay, so go to object, and now we are adding object, let's say multiplication. Fine, click OK. Right, it's get added here. Correct. So we have added that objects, we have renamed that objects. Correct. Fine. If you want, we can delete any objects. Select that object and delete. Correct. It got deleted. Fine. Okay. So this object repository manager will enable you to edit or delete any objects from object repository managers. Correct. Now what we can do, we can save this script. Fine. We can save this script. Fine. So click save. So it gets saved, or you can create new save as also if you want. Right. Correct. So this is also share object repository. Fine, and close. Fine. Now go to object repository, and that object which we have deleted or which is updated share object repository we can use in current test script. Fine. So now go to tools, go to associate repository, and try to add that share object repository which is updated one. Correct. Make it associate, click OK. Fine. Same way, if you want, we can add some other share object repository also if you want. Select this, make it associate, and click OK. Correct. So that is also get added in our object repository. Fine. And now we can start writing script. Okay. Fine. We can start writing script. Fine. But now we are writing here parent object window and write open bracket. So now here it is displaying two parent objects. Right. So this time we have used to share object repository. If you properly observe here, in this to share object repository, couple of objects are common, couple of objects are identical. Fine. Also, when we write script, it will create little confusion that which parent object we have to use. Fine. So one option is what? Merge them. Right. One option is what? Merge them and use as a single share object repository, because many objects are common, okay, in both object repository. Correct. So rather using different, okay, let's merge them. Fine. So how to merge share object repository? Fine. But before that we have to compare them. We have to take a call. We have to take a decision that how many objects are common. Right. If many objects are common, then it makes sense. Okay. And it's a logical thing to merge them. Fine. So now we are learning how to use comparison of share object repository. Correct. Okay. How to use compare of two share object repository. Fine. So now go to resource, go to object repository manager. Okay, object repository manager, go to tools, and tools we can see it displaying here object repository comparison tool. Okay, object repository comparison tool. Select that. Fine. As soon as we select, right, it will display here new comparison window, right, and select two share object repository file which we want to compare. Fine. So first we have to give primary file, means first file path, and then we have to give a second file path here which we want to compare. So now click on this path, right, and give here first file path. Same way click on here and give a second file path which is our updated. Fine. Right, and now click OK. So as soon as we click OK, it displays some statistic. Right. So properly observe what displaying as a statistic. Fine. So displaying selected object repository file have been compared successfully 0 objects are unique to first file, 2 objects are unique to second file. So here we can see there is no object which is unique in both file. In first file, right side we can see it is second file. So here this sky blue color objects are what? Unique in both file. Fine. Also displaying here two objects with same description but different name. Right, there are two objects are there which is same description and different name. Fine. So this object displaying in a red color, see it displaying here red color means it's a same object but different name. So here calc and calculator basically same object but different name. Same object but different name. Hence it displaying in a red color. Fine, red color. Right. Now let's try again how we have done. Go to tools, object repository comparison tool, give a file path. So this time we are giving this share object repository and this, right, and now click OK. Fine. So as soon as we click OK, right, displaying here 0 object is unique to first file, 0 object is to second file. Fine. And displaying there are 4 identical objects in both files. So all these objects are identical in both, right? So it's the same share object repository, correct? Okay, so this way we can compare two share object repository. Fine. So in our previous example we have seen that in both files, okay, almost all objects are identical or common. So now we can do merge them, right? We can merge that two share object repository. Fine. So this way we can compare two share object repository. So after comparison we can see here each object below property and values, right? Select that object, here we can see property and values, correct? Okay, so now we are trying to merge two share object repository, correct? So go to object repository manager menu, go to tools and go to object repository merge tool. Fine. And here we have to give file path of two share object repository again, right, because we want to merge them. So select calculator new TSR and select calculator shared updated TSR. Fine. So both file path we have given, which is one primary and secondary, and now click OK. So as soon as we click OK, it displaying here 0 similar description conflict, 0 same name description conflict, and 2 same description but different name. Correct? Okay. So now this both object repository which is share, we have merged them. So here we can see 1 means what? It's a primary object name. 2 means it's a second or secondary share object repository object. 4 or equal to is what? Secondary object file. And this 1 is what? First means primary object, right? Right side we can see displaying primary repository objects, right? Here it displaying secondary objects in this column. Fine. So now this object we have made shared. Fine. Now what we can do, we can save them. So go to object repository merge tool menu and go to save as, right? And now we can give a file name calculator merge. Okay, calculator merge, because now we have merged this to share object repository, right? Because many objects were common, right? And now click save. Fine. So as soon as we click save, so this merge share object repository is get saved. Fine. Now we can use this merge object repository in our test script. Correct? So how we can use? Let's see. So open object repository now, right? And now remove this to share object repository which is creating confusion, and here many objects are common, so hence we have made them shared. Correct? So now add object repository which is merged now, right? right? Make it associate action and click OK. Fine. And now when we write script, it will display only one parent object and there will be no extra object which is identical, right? So now writing script is very easy. Okay, writing script is very easy. Fine. Right, we can use drag and drop also. Fine. And our script is ready. Correct, our script is ready. Fine. So this way we can use object repository manager which have a extra feature. Correct, which have extra features. Correct. Then what is different between object repository and object repository manager? Correct. What is different between object repository and object repository manager? Fine. So in object repository manager have an extra feature except associate repository. So in object repository manager we can't use associate repository because that option is not available, but it have an extra feature like we can add it share object repository, right? Also we can compare two share object repository, we can compare, and after that we can merge two share object repository. So that feature is there in object repository manager, right, which is one extra benefit to us. Also in object repository manager we can use object spy, right? We can use from here object spy. So there are 6 locations are there in QTP, right, wherein we can use object spy, right? 2 we can see in shortcut in object repository, 2 we can see outside in QTP, and remaining 2 option of object spy we can use in object repository manager. Correct. Okay, so from object repository manager also we can use object spy. Correct. Now when we start working on application in regression testing or some new version, what happens sometime developer will change any button size. For example, this equal to button height or width maybe developer has changed. So when we run script this again in future, maybe for new version, this script will fail because developer has changed this button maybe some values, maybe height or width. Fine. In object repository, okay, that values are older one, right? That values are older one, and developer has changed that some new values. Means we have to update this object value in object repository. Correct. So how we can update any object values, right? So go to object, okay, go to object, first select that object and we can update from application, right? So for example we are adding currently one object, for example this plus button, okay, plus button object we have added, correct? And now this plus button object, some values are changed by developers, right? And that's how script is running fail, right? So now we have to update that object values. So select that plus button, okay, go to object and update from application, okay, and instruct QTP that plus button object values get updated, and click on plus button and click OK, right? So this way that object plus button object values get updated in object repository, right? So this object values get updated in object repository, and now when we rerun this script again, right, it will not display script run error, it will run very smoothly because we have updated that object's values. Fine. So this is all about our object repository, right? So this is very significant topic for HP certification, HP QTP certification, plus for working point of view also. Correct. Okay, so this is all about our object repository, right? So what I will suggest, watch this video and practice on each and every feature of object repository plus object repository manager. Fine. So we'll stop here with this, right? Thanks a lot.